Welcome, everyone. It's the Crypto Lark, and I'm super excited to have on today Mick from Mainframe. Mick, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I love your enthusiasm. This is great. I'm excited for this.
I'm excited too. I've been wanting to have you on the show for quite a long time, and I've been following Mainframe for quite a long time. But just for anyone who may not be very familiar with Mainframe and what you guys are doing, can you just give us the short version?
Yeah, Mainframe is a platform for developers to build decentralized applications. So we provide a number of service layers like computation, file storage, data services, communication, etc., to make it really easy for a developer to leverage blockchain technology and build an application that's fully decentralized.
The question I really want to know, why Mainframe? What was the inspiration? What made you wake up one day and go, you know what? Got to do Mainframe.
Well, yeah, let me tell you a little bit about the story of where it all got started. But first, let me say, so I dropped out of Princeton University and I started a different company, and it was in the education space. It was a website that connected high school students with university admissions officers. So basically, high school students could create profiles about themselves, rich interactive profiles. Our tagline was, I am more than a test score, because in the US anyway, and every country works a little bit differently, admissions and recruitment for universities is heavily based on how well you do on standardized tests. And so we gave students a platform to be seen for so much more than just standardized tests. And so we were trying to, in a way, democratize the college admissions process to make it so everybody had an opportunity. And so I would say that's a theme generally in a lot of the different projects and companies and products that I work on. It's trying to create opportunity, unlock opportunity for people, because I believe that, you know, brilliance and talent is evenly distributed all over the world, but opportunity is not. So anyway, I started this first company and it was acquired, worked on it for 6 years, raised venture capital, and then it was acquired by Chegg, which is a big public company in the US. And I started to think about, what did I want to work on next? And it was at a time when mobile and iPhone just came out and mobile development became something new. And so in my free time, I just started building a simple little social media tool, because for me, I'm busy, I'm working all day. I don't know how some CEOs or founders do it. They sit on Twitter and they just tweet all day. I don't know how they do it. I can't do it. And so I built a simple little tool that would connect with your Twitter, connect with your Facebook, and use algorithms to surface the most interesting content. And it was a really simple algorithm, basically just, you know, what links were shared the most within my group of friends. And then at the end of the day, I could see the links that were most commonly shared. And that product was called Undrip. And at first it was just a side project, but then I'm like, this is interesting. I'll raise money. Worked on that for about 18 months. And really it wasn't a very sustainable business. It was kind of in the social media world. And so you need scale if you want to be able to do advertising. And we were just a startup. We didn't have a lot of scale. And so when that kind of failed and fizzled out, I started to think about, okay, like, what do I really want to be working on? Because that kind of just was an experiment at first to learn mobile development. And when that didn't work, I really had a chance to kind of sit down and reflect, like, what do I want to be spending my time on? And that's when I started to think of all the biggest ideas and craziest ideas that I could think of. And one of the ideas was simply just to build a better email, build a better protocol for decentralized communication and messaging. And this was in 2014, and decided to apply to a bunch of accelerators, and Y Combinator rejected us. Okay, whatever. Techstars was another accelerator, and they were mostly based in the US, but they had just opened up a location in London. And so we got in and we said, sweet, let's go live in London for 3 months during the accelerator. And we set off trying to build a better protocol, you know, better IMAP, better SMTP, just a better protocol for email. And, you know, one of the big problems we were trying to solve is email, you know, one of its greatest strengths, which is it's completely unstructured. You know, you put in a body, a subject and a body, and you just send. And that's one of its greatest strengths, but it's also one of its greatest weaknesses, because it's not very structured, which means it's not easy to integrate with other applications. It's not easily extensible. You know, you don't have any control over it. Anybody can just dump whatever garbage they want to dump in your inbox. So these are some of the ideas that we were going to make better. was better primitives around calendaring, task management, CRM, document collaboration, and have a lot of those things built into the actual protocol itself. Anyway, so we worked on that. We raised over $3 million for that. We started working with a lot of businesses and enterprises because it was more productivity use cases. And we built a decentralized communication protocol. One of the big challenges that we faced, though, was a lot of the companies that we were working with said, well, Mainframe, you built the protocol, why don't you host it as well? And so even though we had spent all of this time building something that could be decentralized, everybody just wanted us to host it. And so we had spent all this time building a decentralized protocol. It ended up just being a centralized thing. And like, well, that's too bad. We just did all this complicated computer science work to make it decentralized. And now you're saying that you just want a centralized service. And so it was super frustrating. But around this same time, I was mentoring a company called AidTech. And this was in 2016. So we had worked on 2014, 2015, 2016, working on this decentralized messaging protocol. In 2016, there was this company called AidTech, and they were going through Techstars, and I was a mentor there in London. And they were using blockchain technology to help solve fraud issues that refugee camps were facing, because sometimes you'll have a lot of people donate to NGOs and nonprofits, and refugees would sometimes try to scam and get the double spend problem, a real life double spend problem. And so that's when I started to realize that, wow, blockchain technology can be solved for a lot of different interesting use cases, this being one of them. I forgot to mention that I invested in Bitcoin in 2013. So I had exposure to Bitcoin mostly as a speculative investment in 2013. But 2016 is when I really started to learn more about blockchain technology. And so anyway, as I was mentoring this company, and as we were trying to figure out, well, how can we make this truly decentralized? We want this protocol to replace email. We want this to be big. We want this to take over the world, and we want it to be completely unstoppable. That's when I started to study more about the incentivization mechanisms that Bitcoin had, specifically, rewarding miners, incentivizing early participants on the network. And so that's when kind of 2017 rolled around, started to explore, how could we create a new scarce digital asset that we could incentivize nodes to run the mainframe protocol all over the world. And so we created a token, MFT. We presented at DevCon in 2017 in Cancun, showing our proof of concept messaging application, which is called Onyx. And then in that process, wrote a white paper, and kind of 2018 rolled around, we did a pre-sale. But in all of that process, we realized that this network that we were building could be used for so much more than just communication and messaging. But in fact, somebody could build a new decentralized Uber or a decentralized social network like Facebook, and the list goes on. And so that's when we kind of evolved into more than just being a messaging protocol, but really being a protocol that developers could leverage to build decentralized applications. So anyway, that was a very long-winded explanation of to why, but essentially the why was I wanted and I want to build a protocol that's completely free and open, right? Where governments or companies or anybody really can't shut it down. And communication is an easy example to point to because we have so much experience in that. People should be able to communicate where they want, with whom they want, freely. And in a lot of places in the world, they just don't get that. A lot of places in the world, they can't use the applications that they want to use. They just don't have freedom. And for me, again, a big motivation, and I shared the example of Zinch, which was the first company that I started, as a way to create opportunity for people. And one of the reasons why we've evolved into a platform versus just kind of a messaging protocol is I want to create opportunities for people to build applications that are truly unstoppable. So entrepreneurs, developers, to make a living, to be able to provide for themselves, for their families, and also for end users, right? In all of this platform development that's happening, we're always thinking about not just the developer, but the end users as well. How can we create new microeconomies where end users, early participants in the network, can be rewarded with tokens, can help cultivate and grow a new nascent network and get paid to do that? it's incredible, these new microeconomies that are emerging all over kind of the blockchain industry. And we want to be able to allow that to exist at kind of a dApp level, where the developer can create a token and end users can help support that application to grow and to exist and be rewarded for that. And so a lot of it, again, to summarize, is trying to create opportunities, unlock opportunities for people all over the world. And all they need is potentially just a mobile phone.
Very, very cool. Now, the interesting thing is, though, you're not launching, there won't be a Mainframe blockchain. Right now, Mainframe, it's an ERC20 token. It's interoperable with Ethereum. You guys are interoperable with Rootstock as well, which Bitcoin sidechain, and Tezos also. So it'll be interoperable between all those different blockchains, but there won't be a Mainframe blockchain in itself.
Correct. Yeah, I'm not yet anyway, and I don't want to do any spoilers here, but correct, not right now. There's no Mainframe blockchain yet. Right now, we're mostly integrated with Ethereum. I mean, most of the functionality and even some of the dependencies in the underlying protocols. We're using a protocol called Swarm, which is kind of heavily connected with the Ethereum Foundation. So yeah, I would say of all of those that you mentioned, Ethereum is the one that we're most connected with and tied to, but we're building a platform that's blockchain agnostic. And we want to be able to, if a developer wants to, for whatever reason, they prefer a specific blockchain, we want them to be able to configure their dApp to work with that specific blockchain. So all of the integration pieces and the connection pieces, we will do at Mainframe. And so the developer just needs to build their dApp and focus on the value for their customers or their consumers. And we do all the hard stuff about connecting pieces and exchanging tokens and which framework is working and which one's not, et cetera.
That's it. Well, it comes back to your idea of you're trying to give people the tools to, empower themselves versus saying, you have to fit into this box to say, well, we're making a big space where you can come and use these tools to find what works for you in terms of a dApp or whatever it might be. I want to explore the idea a little bit of how do you ensure privacy and security? So let's take the China example, right? China is very famous in terms of the Great Chinese Firewall and their crackdown on dissent and all these different things. How do you combat with a state-level actor that is actively trying to counteract you all the time?
Yeah, and this is a great question, and there are a few ways in which I can answer that. One is that given the nature of it being decentralized and peer-to-peer and no kind of single source or single point of failure, it'll be very hard for the Chinese government or any government to stop our protocol from existing. The traffic is encrypted, it's completely decentralized, and you've got people all over the world, helping support this, running our nodes. And so it'll be very hard for them to stop it just by nature of it being so decentralized. And if for whatever reason they are able to find kind of an IP address that's running our protocol and they stop it, there's hundreds of others that, so it'd be like a game of whack-a-mole. In the US, there's this arcade game where you whack the mole that pops up, and it's hard. And so it's constantly going to be a game of cat and mouse, whack-a-mole. It's just not going to be very easy. And the only way that they would truly be able to shut this down is if they just shut the internet down altogether. And who knows, I guess anything is possible.
That's right. Maybe they could shut down the internet globally and just make a ChinaNet, for example.
Yeah, exactly. So it is possible, but yeah, I mean, that's one of the great things about these decentralized technologies is you've got people all over the world who are acting as servers, nodes, running these networks. And so it's not very easy for state actors or anybody to kind of shut these networks down. And to me, that's what's so exciting is true freedom, true, access and open information, open networking. And that's what's so exciting about blockchain technology.
So let's say that I work for the Chinese government. I'm trying to see what you're doing. So it's encrypted, right? But can I look at your internet traffic and go, ooh, why is he sending encrypted data? Right? Will that show up as like a red flag? And then they could, then come and knock on my door and say, hey, I see you're sending encrypted data. What are you doing here?
Yeah, I mean, the good thing, though, is, yes, I suppose that's possible. But the good thing is that it's becoming more and more common for other messaging tools, even things like WhatsApp or, on Apple iMessage, to be encrypted. And so because it's becoming table stakes, it's becoming standard. I don't think it's going to be as likely that governments will start trying to stop all encrypted traffic, because that's just becoming kind of a standard in solid security, whether it's messaging or other sort of business collaboration, business tools. So yeah, it is possible, but I think it's becoming a standard practice now in encrypting data, encrypting traffic, that I don't think it's going to be an issue.
I always laugh when I hear about governments trying to shut down Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency or whatever.
Yeah.
They just really don't get it when it comes down to it. You guys can't shut it down. You can stop the exchanges from making it easy for people to go and buy it, but it's interesting to see what happened in China, where China shut down most of the official exchanges, and then what happens is the OTC market goes crazy. People start going to back alley dealers and buying Bitcoin. Didn't stop it.
That's the thing, is governments will not be able to stop it. Like you said, they're trying to slow down on ramps and off ramps, or at least better get a feel for what's going on with exchanges. But you see things like local Bitcoins and local Ethereum, which are terrible user experiences, but it's, and other entrepreneurs and other people are going to be building better types of those kind of marketplaces. But at the end of the day, again, it's peer-to-peer. When you create rich, vibrant, decentralized, peer-to-peer communities, peer-to-peer marketplaces, it becomes really hard to shut down. And so if I'm buying crypto from just another person on the street and I'm sending a bank wire, a $500 bank wire, it's not going to be very easy to kind of figure out which wires on our banking system are for crypto and which ones are for piano lessons, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's really hard. Again, it's a game of whack-a-mole when you create kind of these decentralized peer-to-peer networks. And right now we're heavily dependent on centralized exchanges, fiat on-ramps and off-ramps. But I think you're going to see more and more that are, obviously there's a lot going on with like decentralized exchanges and whatnot, but fiat on-ramps and off-ramps are the kind of the sticky point. And so when those become more peer-to-peer, I think it's going to be a lot harder for governments to put a stranglehold on some of these. And we're already seeing with local Bitcoins and local Ethereum, but again, I think those are bad user experiences. Mm-hmm. You see some entrepreneurs building tools that are just better, and some of the stuff will really start to take off.
One thing that I've thought about, which is really interesting, and I don't think it gets mentioned very often, is right now we're so dependent on the fiat on-ramps and off-ramps, but let's imagine 10 or 20 years down the line where people are just getting paid in cryptocurrency. I receive my salary in Bitcoin. Then the whole idea of a fiat on-ramp, the necessity of that becomes very, very strongly challenged as more and more employers pay their people in cryptocurrencies as well.
No, you're exactly right. And this is the exciting stuff about crypto, right? Where people start getting paid in crypto. Now, some people might not want the volatility of something like Bitcoin. Okay, you get paid in DAI, or who knows what other stable coins will exist in the future. You get paid in DAI. It's the same thing. Now, there just needs to be a way that you can, if there's not an off-ramp of getting your DAI into cash, then we need to be able to spend our crypto, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where, things like Square, figuring out, hopefully some POS system, some system that works with merchants, right? That there needs to be a way in which when you get crypto, whether it be DAI or BTC or whatever, that you can actually spend it, that you can pay your phone bill, that you can pay your rent, that you can buy your groceries. And in the moment in which you can start spending your crypto, game over, right? You get paid in crypto, you spend your crypto. I don't need cash. I don't need plastic cards or checkbooks. I don't need any of that stuff. But yeah, that'll be exciting when we get there. And a lot of entrepreneurs are working on these problems. But yeah, that's the promise of crypto, right? That we don't need any banking system, none of that. None of it.
That's right. That's the next step. You don't need fiat. And it's interesting that's already happening in some places. I remember talking to one of the representatives from Dash, and he lives in Australia. He gets paid in Dash. And because of Living Room of Satoshi, which is an Australian company, and they basically he can pay his rent, his power bills, his food bills, all this stuff in Dash. So he very rarely gets into having any fiat at all. But that's very localized situation. We need that everywhere, right? We need that in the US.
What's that called? That sounds cool.
Living Room of Satoshi.
Oh, I need to check that out. That sounds really cool.
So I actually just went to Australia for 3 days, traveling only on Bitcoin. I mostly got everywhere only on Bitcoin. So step by step, we're getting there. It's moving in the right
Yeah,
direction.
it's getting there.
Now,
And the banks aren't even going to know, even though this has been 10 years since Bitcoin, the banks still aren't even going to, like, they don't even know what's about to hit them. They're going to
no,
be completely obsolete. They're going to be forgotten. They're going to be left in the dust. And it's going to be such a wonderful time. It's already happening. It's just, it's like, it's the frog that's slowly getting boiled to death.
exactly, exactly. I like to think of like the CD industry, right? You probably had a bunch of fat cats sitting around. MP3s are
Yeah.
never going to be a thing. Give me another cigar, and then they're out of business
Yeah,
the next day.
exactly.
Now, in terms of
What a
mainframe
time.
and getting developers to come to mainframe, there's so many other platforms, there's so many other projects. What are you doing? What is your message to developers to say, hey, come and work with us, not the other guys?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we have to deliver real value. We have to solve problems. We have to truly be what we say we are, which is the easiest way to build dApps, right? When people were building in Web 2, they used tools like Firebase or Heroku. They didn't have to think about authentication or what database they're going to use. I mean, that's the equivalent. We're trying to allow developers to focus just on the core value that makes their dApp unique, and not have to think about what computation, file storage, all, like, it's complicated. And with blockchain, it's like we're in the mid 90s in terms of, when
Yes.
if we were to look at like the trajectory of users of the internet, and we're looking at kind of where we are with crypto and kind of blockchain, this is kind of the mid 90s where it's rough. There's not a lot of frameworks for developers. There's not a lot of tools to even do the most basic things. Requires a lot of effort. And similar to the mid 90s where it's like everyone thought that the web was going to be a place where you could read newspapers online and like static content. I had a website. My first website was called Mick's Pimpological Biosphere, and it was just I had yo mama jokes. I was like in 5th or 6th grade. I don't remember what grade I was in, but I built my first website on
That's
GeoCities.
amazing.
Yeah. And so we had yo mama jokes. We had animated GIFs that were stick figure deaths. We had StarCraft cheat codes, useless facts, all sorts of good stuff. But it was just static content with some like animated GIFs and stuff. But anyway, we had no idea that the web would become what it has today, being part of all of our lives and in
Hmm.
all aspects of our lives. And so I think this is similar to blockchain. It's super clunky for developers. It's not easy to do things. And also just it's exciting to see that a lot of the use cases that will end up emerging in blockchain haven't even been considered yet. Just like in the 90s, we're like, oh, this is a cool thing for static content and publish your research in newspapers. But anyway, so hopefully we deliver real value and our documentation is great. It's easier to use, and that we can deliver on functionality that simply you can't get anywhere else, unless you want to basically try to connect all the pieces, which is really hard and which is what we're doing. But a few other things I'll say, those are kind of the obvious things. A few other things are, we're working hard to build a strong community, to have distribution. One of the things that draws, when Facebook opened up their platform, people were excited to build apps on Facebook because it had such a huge distribution, a huge audience.
Hmm.
And so in this space, in kind of the blockchain ecosystem, the bar is not very high to kind of be considered like a huge audience. And we've got hundreds of thousands of people in our community, which is amazing. And hopefully we're working on building more and getting those people activated and ready to try the different dApps. So distribution is a compelling reason to come build with Mainframe. But another reason, and I've already touched on this earlier, we want to create sustainable business models for our developers. We want to make sure that this isn't just a weekend project, it's some hackathon thing, but that this can be a real business for you, that you can hire people, that you can feed your family with. And so thinking a lot about business models and being able to tokenize your dApp and where it makes sense, and strong incentives for developers and also for end users, we're thinking a lot about that, right? Like, how can our platform be a place that you can build a business on? So those are a few of the reasons why people should come build on Mainframe.
Awesome. Awesome. It's very exciting to see what's happening right now with blockchain. And I kind of feel like the internet in the 90s is such a perfect parallel. The only difference I see is that it's going to go faster because obviously the whole technological space right now is at a very different stage. And so Yeah, it took Bitcoin a long time to really catch on, but what we've seen happen in the past even 2 years, 5 years in the crypto space, and what's happening now, I feel like we're hitting this point of really big momentum coming up where in the next 5 years, it's going to be totally different. We are going to
Yeah.
start seeing these really user-friendly applications where people are going to be using blockchain on a daily basis, using crypto assets on a daily basis, and not even know about it, which is
Yeah. No,
kind
you're
of where you need to
exactly
be.
right. And I think it's a combination of the technology, which is accelerating, and a lot of interesting things are happening there, but also just kind of the macro climate, right? When you consider that millennials are going to be young people are the biggest generation entering the workforce. Already 50% of millennials are freelance workers. So their culture is more freedom, flexibility,
Mm-hmm.
independence, kind of more decentralized. And then by 2025, 75% of the entire workforce is going to be millennials. And so when you consider just the changing of attitudes, the way people work, it lends itself well to kind of a decentralized economy. And with millennials, 92% of them don't trust their financial institutions. The stats go on and on. And so it's all setting itself up well. And then just generally, like, trust in government is going down. Trust in big tech companies is going down when you realize that when you're not paying for the product, you are the product, and the things that they're doing with our data and manipulating us. So all of these kind of factors are coming to a head and the technology is getting ready. It's like, wow, this really is the future. The decentralized web is the future. It's going to happen based on a lot of different factors. And we're at the front lines of it. It's
Yeah,
exciting.
it's super exciting. Absolutely. I wake up every day and I look and what's going on? What's the new technology? What's the new idea being discussed? What's the new idea for a dApp that might be revolutionary or whatever it might be? There's always so much going on. And that's it's great for somebody who makes videos talking about cryptocurrencies because there's always something to talk about because it's
Yeah.
always something new and
Yeah.
exciting going on.
Yeah.
Now, recently you
It's going to
went.
be part of our, hold on, I was just going to say,
Good.
it's going to be part of our everyday lives, just like the web is. And
Yep.
people aren't going to need to know about consensus protocols and proof of stake. It's just going to be part of their everyday lives. But it's exciting and it's powerful, and I'm excited that we're part of this and building this.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of bringing more people in and building communities and all these things, you recently went to Brazil and Argentina on a trip down there, meeting with the communities. So, what's the scene like down there? What are the communities like? What was the interest in Brazilian and Argentinian developers to be building on Mainframe and about cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, so I mean, I had such a good time, and I'll be going back to Brazil in a couple of weeks. We're opening up an office in Brazil.
Awesome.
But yeah, we went to Argentina, we went to Chile, did a bunch of meetups there. In South America, well, and similar to a lot of places in the world, but in South America, you have a lot of these external factors that are coming to a head where it's like they're really craving more control, they're craving more freedom, they're craving more power. You have people and developers who are so talented, so smart, they're just not given great opportunities. And the politicians and the leaders there aren't helping them. There's a lot of corruption going on, a lot of hyperinflation, like you said, in Venezuela, and that didn't happen too long ago in Argentina. And so you've got groups of people who are young, ambitious, hungry for change, kind of very scrappy, resourceful hacker mentalities. And it's just a recipe for really exciting things to happen. When you start introducing them and giving them the tools and the platform to enable them to kind of take destiny into their own hands and start solving their own problems, I think magical things are going to happen. And so that, being there, we felt that, and we see the attitude, and it is an attitude of like, well, our government's not going to solve our problems. We're just going to take it into our own hands and solve it ourselves. And it's awesome to see. So yeah, you got a lot of corruption. So naturally people don't trust their government, or they don't trust their big financial institutions. You have a lot of talented people, a lot of young people who are kind of unemployed or underemployed. And a lot of people don't have financial services or access. They don't have access to things. A lot of people who are unbanked. So yeah, just when you think of crypto and you think of blockchain, these are areas of the world that it can make a huge impact. This can really change lives in a very big way. And so that's why we've been spending so much time there, is because of all of these reasons. And a lot of crypto and blockchain companies aren't paying as much attention to that area as well, or just tech companies in general, they're not paying much attention. I was surprised that in some of the biggest cities down there, a lot of the biggest tech companies don't have offices, and it's incredible.
It's amazing.
They're underestimating the power down there.
The size of those economies, the will of the people, and
yeah,
it's actually really fascinating because I am a big proponent of the idea that cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology is going to provide this whole leapfrog effect for the majority of the world's population, let's say.
Yep.
Because a lot of people living in New Zealand, Australia, the United States, Netherlands, UK, we're doing pretty okay. Our banks generally work, and yeah, they get caught doing bad stuff, but it doesn't really affect me, so whatever. But when you look at a lot of other countries, the situation is incredibly different. Corruption is much more extreme. Inflation is out of control. Argentina has experienced that very severely. Brazil's experienced inflation. And we could just go through a whole list of countries that have experienced bad economic policies of their government. And when everything else is combined with that, the demand for cryptocurrencies is very real. The use case is very real. And I have no idea why more companies aren't trying to push into Brazil and Argentina, because it seems like just markets that are ready. Hey, by the way, have you heard about the guys from La Bitcoineta? You hear about these guys?
La Bitcoineta.
It's this group of Argentinian dudes, and they're driving around in a van that's got a big Bitcoin on it, going from village to village, telling people about Bitcoin.
So I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, I met them. So when we were
Cool.
Yeah, so we were in Chile at a big conference called La BitConf. They were there. They had their van there. It was super cool. Yeah.
There you go. So that's how it's done, guys. Village by village.
Yeah.
Get out there and spread the good word about Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of cool projects down there, right? Like even, let's see, Zeppelin's down there. You've got Decentraland. You've got obviously Rootstock. You've got Ripio. You've got Claros. You've got a lot of great projects down in Argentina and in Brazil. You got a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, that's it. Very cool. Okay. So, final question for you for today. So, what would you say was your biggest accomplishment for Mainframe in 2018, and what are you most looking forward to in 2019?
That's a great question. I mean, for 2018, I think we've been very kind of build mode. Like so a few accomplishments. I'd say we've put together an amazing team of people, talented, strong engineers, strong blockchain people, strong marketing people, business people. So the team that we've been able to assemble at Mainframe, I think can stack up against any team in the industry, like absolute top notch. So I'm really proud of the team that we've been able to put together, number one. Number two, I'm really proud of the community that we've been able to build. I mean, we've spent a lot of time on flights, on buses and trains in Europe and in Asia and in South America, meeting developers, meeting people who are impacted by these things that we're trying to solve. And the community is growing, and it's really exciting, and it's cool to meet people face to face. It's one thing to just hear people talk in Telegram. It's a completely different thing to meet somebody in Beijing whose mom was put in jail for censorship, or for talking bad about the government. Like it humanizes the whole thing. And every time I'm among the community, meeting with the community, I'm inspired and I'm motivated to work that much harder. So the community just the community that's building and that we've been able to build in 2018 has been incredible. So that's another thing that I'm proud of. And then the other thing is just we were able to capitalize ourselves with not just getting capital, which is needed because we have expenses and we need to build, but with great people. So many founders of other great projects invested in us, participated in our pre-sale. So many great funds and angel investors, and just a large group, people, YouTubers, like yourself, like a lot of different people participated. And that was a great accomplishment because it's so clear how much this technology is needed and how much it matters. And hopefully in 2019, because we're soon to launching, in February, we're launching kind of our biggest public release yet. So when you ask me this question a year from now, I'm going to be talking all about the technology, because 2018, we didn't ship a lot of the big stuff that we shipped was just kind of beta, private. A lot of it was kind of getting the groundwork. It's the community, the team, the backers. And now we're about, we've been building in 2018, we've been heads down building, but now it's going to be about releasing technology that's really going to change the world, and that allows developers to start building meaningful things. Before, it was just kind of small little things that developers could do, but starting in mid-February, developers are going to be able to do a lot of interesting things.
Well, we're looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah, another thing that I'll say about 2019, this is a special sneak peek exclusive only for the Crypto Lark.
Oh, right. Because I've got the best audience. You guys rock, by the way.
Exactly. You do have a very good, engaged audience. So we are 100% focused on providing value to developers. And as I mentioned earlier about one of the valuable things that we think we offer developers is distribution, users. And so one of the things that we're going to be doing a lot of in 2019 is making it much easier, much smoother, much simpler for the mass audiences to come in and start using dApps built by developers on Mainframe. So we launched a video just around DevCon called Dawn of the dApps. It was about lemon coin. It was about, if you haven't seen it.
That was hilarious, by the way. I'll put a link down below for anyone who hasn't seen it. Absolutely.
So the
hilarious
amount of friction that's involved for a user to interact with like dApps is very high. It's painful, it's laughable. And we made a joke out of it in the video because it's so funny. So much of that friction that exists, we're going to be solving, because we know how important it is for users, or we know how important it is for our developers on our platform to make it easy for their users to come on board. We cannot have that much friction for our developers who are building on the Mainframe platform. And so that video is exactly the pain and the frustration and just the silliness that we're going to be solving a lot of around usability, around onboarding, around making it much easier for the masses, not just crypto people, not just people who know how to use MetaMask or have an exchange on Binance, but for normal human beings to start using dApps.
That's how crypto gets big. We're not going to go big leagues until it gets to be so user friendly that people are using it and they don't even realize they're using it.
So expect to see a lot of this. Expect to see a lot from us around these types of issues, bringing the masses into crypto in a way that's just so easy, so smooth, silky smooth, butter smooth. You just want to lick it. That's how smooth it is.
Crypto's so good you can lick it. We're gonna coin that phrase.
Exactly.
Mick, this has been a really, really great chat. Thank you for coming on and telling the audience a little bit about Mainframe, what's been going on, and this is a great chat overall. So thank you so much.
I need to put in one more plug. Can I put in one more plug?
Go for it.
So we are doing a virtual event on January 29th and January 30th. It's virtual, online conference. Any of your listeners can sign up. It's called the Decentralized Summit. So if you go to decentralizedsummit.com, you'll be able to sign up. We've got amazing speakers, amazing founders. You go there and you'll see we have over 50 different founders and speakers from all the top projects in crypto. Again, it's a virtual summit. So you sign up, you'll be able to watch the videos. It's going to be really cool. It's the crypto bear market. We've got to be resourceful. We know that you can't just do a big full-blown event these days. You got to be virtual. So we're doing a virtual event. Anybody in the world can have access to it.
That's awesome. So that's decentralizedsummit.com.
Yes, decentralizedsummit.com.
Awesome. I'll put a link down below to that as well. So if you want to find out about decentralizedsummit.com, or if you want to, of course, watch the Lemon Coin video for a good laugh, both those are down below. Mick, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. A year from now, let's make sure to put it in the calendar. A year from now, let's do it again.
Sounds good.